Okay, hello everyone. Welcome to the Shmuley show. You're not looking at Rabbi Shmuley. Rabbi Shmuley is my dad. You guys know me, Rochel Leah. I actually started my show. Well, it wasn't really a show. I started The Thirsty Souls on my dad's Facebook. Where am I looking, by the way? Guys, I have like thousands of cameras in front of me. Okay, I'm looking straight. So you guys know me because I started my own show on my dad's Facebook a couple years ago called The Thirsty Souls. We learned Hasidus, we learned Torah. I'm actually in New York City right now. I had a baby less than a month ago. I am a new mom. My newborn is in the other room. I arrived here in New York City. You guys can see we're in New York City. I got here last night at midnight. I'm exhausted, hungry, angry that I'm doing this, even though I'm happy to see you guys. We got here so late. I was up the entire night. I'm not joking. I was up the whole night with my newborn, who is so cute. I love to be up with him, but I'm exhausted. So why am I here? Because I love my dad, and he's also very compelling, and he doesn't take no for an answer. I did tell him I was too tired to do this, but here we are. My dad is like, to me, he is the ultimate legend. He's probably the coolest. He's the most badass Jew of our time. So if he asks me to do something, I'm going to do it. So that's why we're here. He asked me to speak about Candace Owens today, and I've been speaking about Candace Owens for a long time. I really was the whistleblower on how horrible and evil and wicked she is. About 3 years ago, she was working for Ben Shapiro, and I don't like to, bring up other Jews or we live in a new culture where like calling people out constantly is looked up to, and it's kind of cool. And you've kind of made it if you're rude to everyone. But I was in shock 3 years ago when she was working for Ben Shapiro and, supporting Kanye West, who was telling the world that Jews milk black people until they die. And I remember just being absolutely shocked. And it's only gotten worse from there. And part of the reason Candace Owens has gotten worse from there, she is a product of people's reactions. When she was doing these horrible things and saying horrible things, the world kind of just listened, specifically Jewish people. They listened and they invited her onto their shows. Ben Shapiro was paying her to talk about Kanye West and how tortured he is and how we don't understand him and how, if we only understood that Jews really did control Hollywood and Jews really do control black people through contracts, and they destroyed Michael Jackson and my dad killed Michael Jackson, and Ben Shapiro was paying for all of this. And there were lots of other Jewish creators, unfortunately, who were condoning her behavior. There was, I feel compelled to use names, but I'm not going to. They invited her on their podcast. They went on to her podcast, and it doesn't work. She has gotten so much worse. My dad wanted me to talk about how Candace Owens is being sued by the First Lady of France, Brigitte Macron. That's my newborn. You can hear him. My husband's with him. I don't want to talk about. I truly don't give a crap. I actually don't care. It's not important to me. Do I think that it's disgusting how she is bullying the First Lady of France on a global scale? Yes. But there is something way more important that happened this week that no one's really talking about. There is a picture of Elie Wiesel on the wall here. I'm in my parents' apartment here in New York City. I'm looking at a picture of Elie Wiesel. I've read almost all of Elie Wiesel's books. They are the most haunting, powerful books, I think, maybe almost ever written. He uses imagery and metaphors, and none of his books, I was discussing this with my sister recently. His books are so haunting, they kind of make you sick. And it's because he saw one of the most horrific, sick, gruesome, evil things that ever occurred in human history, the Holocaust. He lived through that. This week, and I'm not joking right now, and you're going to understand why I mentioned Ben Shapiro and the other Jewish creators who really allowed her to hate on Jews publicly and foment so much hatred again. We have enough hatred. We don't need Jews helping anti-Semites make more Jew hatred. You're going to understand why I mentioned that in the beginning. But this week, we're going to get there later. This week, Candace Owens, twice in 2 different YouTube videos, which I think garnered over 2 million views, meaning one had 1.1 million, the other one had close to 1 million. She actually claims and says that Elie Wiesel is an imposter. Elie Wiesel, the face of the Holocaust, one of the most important Jews of our time, a living, breathing, he passed away. I was there in his apartment saying Psalms to Tehillim next to his body. His body was in a different room. I was there in his apartment on Fifth Avenue next to the Apple store. he was a living legend, and he passed away, and he's still alive because his witness, his testimony, what he witnessed is alive with us. We can never forget the things that he taught us. And please, guys, I'm begging you, go read all of his books, Night, Dawn, Day, all of them. She actually claimed that the most important and famous Holocaust survivor, the face of the Holocaust, was an imposter. And I'm going to tell you about the story she mentioned on YouTube about how Elie Wiesel wasn't really a Holocaust survivor. He was never in the Holocaust. And we know that because from his book, which mentions how Jews were being burned in the camps, that never really happened. She is slow walking the world into straight up Holocaust denial. Now, why did I mention these Jews in the beginning? We're going to go into what she spoke about this week because she started this months ago. She actually started this years ago. But because people allowed her to, there was no pushback. Because Jewish people went on her podcast and said, Candace, explain to us, why do you hate Jews? We didn't kill anyone. We're good guys. Why do you hate us? You please like us. Let me explain to you why Jews are not bad. Because we did that. And we didn't just say, stop. This is disgusting. We are going to fight you tooth and nail. We will destroy you online. Because we didn't do it, because we were weak. Now we are at the next level of Holocaust denial. And I'm going to predict something right now. I'm telling you right now, Candace Owens is going to, within the next few months, I know this for a fact, she is going to claim that 6 million Jews were not murdered in the Holocaust. I know she's going to do it. And you're going to understand why I know that. A few months ago, and I have a quote here, she said in one of her podcasts, she was talking about the Holocaust and Adolf Hitler, as she always does, and how Adolf Hitler, there were other people who were more evil than it's slow walking us into the Jews are not victims of anything. They didn't go through anything specific or special. We did. You evil witch. She mentioned this a couple months ago. Okay, let's start from the previous line. Let's see where it is. Okay. Yes, of course. Experimentation. That's been embedded into our minds. The Nazis experimented on innocent people. Candace, come on. That's the difference. Meaning that's the difference between, the Holocaust and other genocides. They experimented on twins. I mean, some of the stories, by the way, sound completely absurd. Like the idea that the Nazis, just cut up a human and then sewed them back together. Like, why would you do that? Literally, even if you're the most evil person in the world, that's a tremendous waste of time and supplies. Just slicing a person in half and sewing them back together, that just sounds like bizarre propaganda. She said this a couple months ago. And the pushback was it was too late because she had started this months before. So it's a little itty bitty bit of Holocaust denial, and there was a kind of a weak response in general, and prior to this there was a weak response, and so it just gets worse because Jewish weakness invites more. I don't want to ever blame the victim. How do I word this? When we are not strong in who we are, and when people hate on us and we give them excuses, the hatred gets worse. So she basically claimed that Mengele's experiments are bizarre propaganda, okay? Mengele, who was a living, breathing monster from hell, from the depths of hell, tortured our people, experimented on twins, experimented on Jews, experimented on lots of people while they were awake with no painkillers. He was a real life monster. But to Candace Owens, it's bizarre propaganda. Now, this week, I want to give you another quote before I tell you what Candace Owens said. There is an old Jewish saying that goes like this, and I think about this a lot because sometimes when people accuse us of things, like now with Israel is, Jews are Nazis. Think about the perversion in that Jews are Nazis. Sometimes you can only laugh. So this is the SHIT that we're going through right now. When people accuse us of things, Jews are Nazis, you're starving Palestinian children, Israel is a genocidal state, Jews, like Candace Owens claims, they drank the blood of Christian children. We as Jews, we sometimes have this knee-jerk reaction, this like inherent reflex to prove that they're wrong. No, listen to me. It's what those Jewish influencers did with Candace Owens 2 years ago. No, listen, let me explain to you why I'm not a monster. Let me explain to you why Judaism is not evil. Let me explain to you why Jews are not Nazis. We want to prove all, like, they accuse us and we say, no, I'm not evil. Please like me. I'm a good guy. Please, I'm begging you, listen to me. It's wrong. That's not the way that Jews fight. It's weak. It's called being a weak-kneed Jew. And weak-kneed Judaism, it's not a thing. Judaism is strength. Judaism is truth. Jews stand for Judaism, which is strength and truth. Listen to this quote, okay? The anti-Semite does not accuse the Jew of stealing because he thinks that the Jew stole something. He does it because he enjoys watching the Jew turn out his pockets to prove his innocence. I'm going to read that again. The anti-Semite does not accuse the Jew of stealing because he thinks the Jew stole something. He does it because he enjoys watching the Jew turn out his pockets to prove his innocence. The Jew haters of the world, they don't want us to prove, they don't think we actually did anything wrong. They know we're not Nazis. They know we live by the code and the ethics and the morals of the Torah. They want to see us on our knees begging for mercy. They want to see us become pathetic and weak and nothing. They want us to dissolve into nothingness on our knees begging, no, turning out no, please look inside our pockets. We didn't steal anything. That's their aim. They want to see us humiliated and degraded. And when we prove to them, no, we didn't kill Christians. Jews don't touch children and we're not pedophiles. No, let me prove it. Like a lot of Jewish influencers did 2 years ago. They get off on watching us turn our pockets inside out. And that's not, I refuse. I just refuse. That's not how a Jew lives. We are the sons and daughters of Abraham and Isaac and Jacob. King David is our ancestor. The granddaughters and grandsons of King David don't turn out their pockets. We fight. I'm going to tell you what you said about Elie Wiesel. You're going to have, maybe, this instinct to prove her wrong. No, Elie Wiesel did have a number on his arm. Elie Wiesel, of course he was a Holocaust. What do you mean? Look, read his book. Open up to page 70. Don't do it. You just fight her disgusting and you fight her evil. You get online and you point out her evil. Candace Owens has been talking about how Judaism is a pedophilic religion. The Zohar, one of the foundational books of Judaism, which I learn every day of my life, okay? I learn Torah at least once a day. It's the number one rule in my life, besides my marriage and my motherhood. I learn Torah once a day. I learn the Zohar every day of my life. She claims the Zohar promotes pedophilia, and people who study the Zohar are pedophiles. Now, again, we're going to get to this in a minute, but knee-jerk reaction. We're not pedophiles. I'll prove it to you. I love children. Jews love children. No. Candace, why haven't you spoken about the Catholic Church? The Catholic Church is responsible for more pedophilia than any other organized group on earth. They've been hurting children and covering it up, spending billions of dollars, the Catholic Church, on covering up pedophilia cases within the church and within Catholic churches all around the world. Why haven't you mentioned it once? That's how we fight. You don't turn out your pockets. Okay. Now this week, we're not talking about Brigitte Macron. Candace Owens. My mouth is very dry. Candace Owens. Can I get some water, Gabe, please? Thank you so much. Okay. Candace Owens. Let's see how I look. I don't really care. Guys, I'm a new mom. We look great. Okay. Candace Owens this week claimed that Elie Wiesel is an imposter and a fraud. She's so evil and disgusting. I can't listen to her disgusting voice. She claims, and I'm going to read you, a transcription of part of her YouTube video, but she claimed that there was this guy named Nicholas Gruner, Mikolos, there's different ways, thank you so much, that she mentions his name. She says that this guy, he was not Jewish, he was in the, thank you so much, he was in the concentration camps, he was in Auschwitz and Buchenwald, and he became friends with this person named, what was his first name? I just forgot it. Someone named, someone with the last name of Wiesel, okay? We're going to get to his name in a minute. Where is it? Lazar, thank you, Gabe. She claims that there was this guy named Nikolaus Gruner who was, the Nazis put him in a concentration camp, and he made friends with someone named Lazar Wiesel. She's now going to claim, these two guys, they survived the camps together, Nikolaus and Lazar. Lazar was Jewish, Nikolaus was not Jewish. They survived the camps together. They became really close. They were a band of brothers. That's something she said. And she's going to say that 40-something years later, they met up, and Elie Wiesel turned up instead of Lazar Wiesel. And Elie Wiesel stole the identity of Lazar Wiesel. She's actually going to claim that, okay? She's then going to claim that being that Elie Wiesel is an imposter and a fraud, night is fiction. Again, she is slow walking the world into full-blown Holocaust denial. Night is fiction. Did you guys read Night? I had to read Night in high school. I've read it 3 times since then. I have it on my bookshelf. I pull it out on Shabbos all the time just to read because we need to bear witness. Slow walking the world. I don't know how she has so many followers. I think because Gabe and I were just discussing this, America is so great. Our life, thank God, here is so... we have an amazing life here in America. People need to be entertained somehow. We need to believe there's a big bad enemy somewhere that's out to get us, when in America we're all just spoiled. We have the best life. We have the best lives in the world. But there always needs to be something terrible happening. So where was I? So she is going to claim, so yeah, I was saying, I don't know how she has so many followers, but it's because people love to be sensationalized. They love to believe there's a monster under the bed when there isn't. Of course, the monster under the bed is always the Jew, right? I want to read this to you because now night is fiction. It started off with, Mengele's experiments being bizarre propaganda, and people were like, well, let's look into it. Let's talk. No. We should have just said, no, the buck stops here, you evil witch. No, we didn't do it. So continue. A year later, now she's telling us that Elie Wiesel is an imposter, and then she ends off this YouTube channel. Her YouTube video. We're gonna read it now, saying that night is fiction. This is a transcription of her YouTube. Okay, her YouTube video. So Nicholas Gruner is completely gobsmacked. Again, Nicholas is a non-Jewish guy that was in the camp, who realized and devoted his whole life to proving that Elie Wiesel was an imposter and a fraud. He soon realizes that he's been set up in a moment of profound propaganda for this stranger, Elie Wiesel, who is not Lazar, who he was in the camp with. Anyways, he leaves and he begins reading the book Night, and soon after realizes that man, Elie Wiesel, is not only an imposter, but he's also a fraud. He reads the book and he's shocked at the stories that he's telling, that he says certainly did not happen while he was there. He writes, quote, I had never seen, referring to Auschwitz, or even come close to seeing, ditches burning with open fire, where people or children could be seen burning on my way to the washroom in Auschwitz, as Elie Wiesel wrote in Night. What did I tell you guys? It never happened. Jews were never burned alive in Auschwitz. Jews were never burned in piles in Auschwitz. Because Elie Wiesel said that happened, and Elie Wiesel's an imposter. The Holocaust never really happened. Neither was it possible for boys of my age with a weight of only 25 kilos to chase and to rape German women in Weimar, as claimed in Night, after the continual treatment of bromamide, I don't know, that's a glitch there, used to minimize our sexual desires. I think that's a medication. Nikolaus then spends the rest of his life dedicated to exposing this fraud, Elie Wiesel, who he claims stole the identity of his friend, eventually culminating in the book by Nikolaus entitled Stolen Identity. And he has that number, 87713, on his arm, where he then reveals throughout his entire life, and dedicates his life to telling the truth. He reveals that Elie doesn't have a tattoo. Do you guys feel that knee-jerk reaction? No, Elie Wiesel did have a number. I'll prove it. I have pictures of... Don't do it. They want to see you turn out your pockets. Don't do it. Elie Wiesel doesn't need you to prove that he's a Holocaust survivor. Elie Wiesel, Hungarian news would confirm that. Multiple pictures show Elie wearing short sleeves, and he doesn't have a tattoo, which was required, at least according to Nikolaus, for all the inmates to have. He goes through lawsuits. He's suing the Hungarian government. He starts to believe that there is some conspiracy to try to platform this guy. He sues rabbis for libel. I mean, when I say he dedicates the rest of his life to exposing this Nobel Prize winner as a fraud, that's exactly what he did. Candace Owens vile, foul-mouthed Candace Owens just called Elie Wiesel a Nobel Prize winner fraud. Let's continue. He then says he's not surprised because Elie Wiesel eventually dies. He's not surprised because when Elie Wiesel eventually dies, they bury him very quickly. Too quickly. Very quickly. Too quickly. And he says, yeah, they did that because if journalists had been allowed to see his body, they would have noted that he did not have a tattoo. Yes, guys, because journalists generally come in to see dead bodies when someone famous dies. Does that make sense? What a freaking moron, idiot, evil witch. I can't stand. Yes, guys, they buried Elie Wiesel. It's a Jewish law. We need to bury our dead very quickly. But no, I was there, by the way. No, they did it. Not because of Jewish law. They did it because journalists would have been able to see his body. And they would have seen, Elie Wiesel was not really a Holocaust survivor. He had no number on his arm. It's just disgusting. They would have known this guy stole the identity of a Holocaust survivor. So who is this Elie Wiesel, Candace asks, who allegedly steals this identity? Who steals identities, no less, and then makes up these stories. She's talking about the stories he tells about the Holocaust. We are being slow-walked into a dangerous, horrific place. We'll get there in a minute. The last thing she says is, well, as I told you guys before, Elie Wiesel was the cousin of Robert Maxwell, who is Ghislaine Maxwell's father, who worked with Jeffrey Epstein. She's trying to make a connection between Elie Wiesel and Jeffrey Epstein. This is so it's not even below the belt. This is so sick. This is such sickness. Now, how do we end off? Okay, we have this disgusting sickness. Where do we go with this? And now I'm going to take a sip because my mouth is dry. Well, what do we do when someone this sick has such a massive platform and they're telling such disgusting lies? We start off with what we don't do. We do not turn out our pockets and we don't kiss the asses of the people that hate us. Unfortunately, we've been doing that for quite a while. The reason I love my dad so much is not, obviously he's my dad. He raised me and he's like one of the loves of my life. But I love my dad as this legendary hero as well. He's strong. You cannot push him around, okay? As a Jew, he reminds me of Shimshon, of Samson, of King David. He is a Jew that will not cow. He will not bend. You can't tell him. He won't take the hatred. He erupts into a ball of fire and he brings hell to the people that hate on the Jews. Very often, we Jews think that the way to combat this kind of hatred is to explain ourselves, is to invite Candace on our show. Candace, what do you mean the Holocaust didn't happen? Look, there's pictures. Look at the videos. Look at the videos of Jewish children being shot. Look at the video. There's video footage of children being gassed. Believe us. The Holocaust happened. Come on, Candace. No. The way to combat this is the way that I come back to this all the time. It's the way that David confronted Goliath. You have God with you. You have God on your side. And you fight. And you destroy your enemies. The Jews need to destroy their enemies. Now there's different ways to do that. If it's a Hamas enemy, you physically destroy them. You kill them. Even if the world calls you a genociding maniac. Don't care. Hamas needs to die. They're terrorists. They get off on Jewish blood being spilled. They need to die. They need to be destroyed. God tells us in the Torah, you need to obliterate the evil from your midst. Now, if it's a different kind of enemy, like Candace Owens, who is truly endangering Jewish life, we destroy her online. That doesn't look like inviting her onto your podcast. That doesn't look like what Ben Shapiro did. Paying her as she tells the world that Jews milk black people until they die. The Jews kill people in their contracts. They suck out their life force and take all their money. It doesn't look like Ben Shapiro paying Candace Owens to tell the world that my father killed Michael Jackson. Or that there's even worse, because my dad can handle it. There is a group of Jews that control Hollywood that touch children. How do we fight this? We get online and we hold a mirror up to these monsters and we show the world how sick and disgusting they are by fighting and never ever trying to prove that they're wrong. David, we don't have the quote here because I'm actually going over time. David, when he confronted Goliath, he went out and he said this amazing thing that the Lord of hosts and how dare you abuse the Jewish people. That's how we need to fight. That's how my dad fights. That's how I fight. And yeah, that's how we need to handle Candace Owens. We need to get online and show the world the monster that she is. Do not try to prove to her that Elie Wiesel was a Holocaust survivor. We just need to show the world how sick she is. Anyways, I will see you guys not again here because this is not my show. This is the Shmuley show. And I'll be back on my own podcast, God willing, soon. All right. Peace out. See you.